Hello and welcome back to Comedy Means Business. Our guest today is Tom Segura, who between his 5 Netflix specials and long-running podcasts like Your Mom's House has cultivated one of today's most diehard comedy fandoms. After hitting the stratosphere of touring in the last few years, selling out shows the world over, Segura has recently turned his attention to television with Bad Thoughts, a series for Netflix in which he puts a lens to his darkest and most grotesque comedic fantasies. Segura has worked here and there in film and TV for a decade, with roles in the likes of Workaholics and Instant Family, a Paramount dramedy where he starred opposite Mark Wahlberg. He's also developed a number of projects of his own, but now he's going all in the space as the originator of his own projects. He premiered Bad Thoughts in May, and a week after seeing it secure an order for a second season, announced El Tigre, an R-rated cartel comedy that's shooting in New Mexico over the summer. Ahead of the start of production, Segura joined me to discuss betting on himself with Bad Thoughts, Netflix viewership insights, and what's really required to create something great in comedy for film and television. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
So you just secured a season 2 order for Bad Thoughts, a project stemming from a pilot that you self-financed that you set up at Netflix. How does it feel to have gotten to this place after taking that initial bet on yourself?
It's a thrill, man. It's a real, exciting feeling. I mean, I've always been a pretty big advocate of doing that. I feel like it's somewhat part of the DNA, I think, of comedians, because it's such a leap and you do kind of have to bet on yourself. And I've always liked that approach for, the creative stuff, but also in business. I feel like it's fun to go like, what are my options? Okay, if you believe in the thing enough, you go, I'll spend the money and I'll do that and see where it takes me. So to have financed the pilot and have it now be a show that's getting a second season, it's very exciting.
Do you think the show would have been made if you didn't take that gamble?
I do not think so. No, or at least it would be. First of all, it would be like such a long. It was a long process, even with the way I did it. But I think it would be a much longer process, and I don't think it would be the same show. Like I think it would be a different show. Maybe it would exist in some way, but I don't think it would be what we have. I think people reading those scripts for the first time, they're kind of crazy. Sometimes they're real crazy. And I think it might have been, I think that's one of the things that gets you to think in terms of, hey, I'm better off making this than just, showing somebody the words on the paper. A lot of times, it's kind of like, it sounds funny, but it's like, even with joke telling, you go like, here's an idea. And if you like, just tell somebody, they're like, huh? But then you go on stage and you do it and they're like, oh, well, yeah, I didn't imagine it with that tone and that expression on your face and that cadence and the set, like all those things that go into it. You're like, yeah, it's just better to show you the final product,
What has it been like working in this different kind of creative sandbox? What do you feel like it's given you creatively?
Oh, I mean, it's incredibly rewarding. It's exciting, like stand-up is the opposite end of the spectrum of collaboration. There is no collaboration. It's just you. I mean, you're the writer, you're the director, you're the performer. You don't you have conversations sometimes with people. What do you think of this? Or they suggest, hey, have you thought of maybe this tag or taking it in this direction? But it's just you. And then working in TV film stuff, it's the biggest collaboration, which for me has been really fun because it's such a departure from what I'm used to. And you start to have that, that skill set, I think, of identifying talented people and then going like, I want to work with you. And like, here's what I'm doing. And then when they get excited about the thing you're doing, it's like, it becomes contagious. So I'm so in on this type of work.
You're known as someone who leans into things that make other people cringe, and you certainly push boundaries with the show. I'm curious, are there any films or TV series that have been too much even for you as a viewer to handle?
I'm trying to think if anything's been too much for me. I mean, sometimes I tap out of things that are depressing me, like the Handmaid's Tale. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's like parts of I forget I was in the second season where I was like, God damn, man, I'm just like so bummed out. I also feel like there's this whole genre. We call them white bummers. Like
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
the theory is that white people's lives are so good they need to watch manufactured drama to feel bummed out. So whenever it's like, this kid with cancer and he lost his legs in a landmine, I'm like, I don't want to watch this dude. Like I don't want to see him overcome it, and I don't want to see the whole, like, I'm good. I That to me is like the thing that I don't really want to watch. I like watching um comedy that, like, I would say that goes for it or that makes people like uncomfortable. And I like thrillers. I like suspense. I like a fun departure from life when I'm consuming entertainment.
But for what I've been told, your cinematic influences are pretty wide ranging, like, and some things you might not even expect. You just are a fan of great cinema. John Hughes, I'm told, for example, is someone whose work you enjoy.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, what was it? 2 nights ago, we watched Ferris Bueller. Um, yeah, I mean, he really tapped into something so special for like a period of time, and these movies are like, they're like perfect movies. Like Hughes made so many like on the nose. There's like not a wasted frame. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
every scene serves its purpose for driving the story, getting to know these characters better, and it really is like a beautiful thing that he was able to do. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his, and yeah, there's so many filmmakers that I'm a big fan of.
Did you take the show out to anyone apart from Netflix?
With this show, the whole plan was to, well, initially the plan was to put it on my pay per view platform, and I was kind of honestly, I was kind of excited about that. That felt like the entrepreneurial gamble that is kind of exciting, where you go like, oh my God, like this could be really fun to put this show out this way and charge like $10 or something, just see what happens.
Were you inspired by Louis? It's. I feel like you talked about this maybe with him on your podcast
Um,
a few years ago.
for sure, what he was doing and continues to do on his site is, yeah, was a huge inspiration. I mean, we were doing something a little different when we got into the pay-per-view thing, because we were doing live streaming podcasts that were really just came as a result of the pandemic and not being able to tour. So we were like, how can we put something that we charge a ticket for, but like you have to raise the entertainment value on? That was the thought on that. Um, so anyway, that yeah, what he's done, it's like it is remarkable on his site. But once we were we were considering doing the pay-per-view thing, and I showed my agents what I had, and they were like, you got to shop this, like you have to shop this. The whole thought was that we would take it to like all, like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, HBO, like all
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
streamers.
yeah.
As a courtesy, we took it to Netflix first just because of our long-standing relationship. And it just so happened that they said yes. Like if they had like hesitated or been like, yeah, we'll think about it or whatever, we would have gone on to the next place. But when they said yes, you're like, I mean, okay, we sold it. I mean, let's do it.
It seems like they're particularly good with comedy. They love Ted Sarandos loves comedy and they
He
love
does.
creative expression. So this is a place that makes sense for this show to live, I would think.
It does. I mean, it ultimately, I think it's in the right place. I think it's the right home. He is a huge advocate of comedy and comedians, and I wouldn't even tell you this if it weren't real. It was pretty damn great working with them. Like I've had other pilot deals. I've sold other shows. I've been in development at a bunch of networks before. This was by far the most fluid and fun way of like developing and getting a show out. They were actually great.
What is your sense of the landscape right now in terms of executives? Do you feel there are those same people who really get comedy and are excited about comedy? Like, what have you seen in your travels doing different kind of meetings?
Yeah, there's the general thing is that like all we do is shit on them, right? Like we just make fun of suits and
Yeah.
and that's because there are a bunch that are terrible, but there are definitely some that are great.
Have
Like
you
there
seen the studio?
was that. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, no, they nail that. Yeah, there's a few at different networks and studios who really get it and who are like great to work. And those are the ones you honestly you want. Like I'll say this for like as much we always, make fun of like bad notes from executives, there are some that give you like spectacular notes where when they give it to you, you're like, oh shit, this is what we actually needed to hear from someone. This is putting us on the right path. And so I think those are people like that. I know a bunch at Netflix. I know a couple at Amazon. I know a couple at Max, uh, what was once HBO, which is going back to HBO or whatever. So yeah, there's good executives at a bunch of places.
I was talking to Nate Bargatze about this recently. Do you think you would self finance comedy? Because to me, it kind of made sense. Like, for example, a filmmaker like M. Night Shyamalan just gets his own stuff financed and he flips it to a studio. He sets it up with an output deal. So there's less risk on the studio. You get to maintain the creative authorship, and
Yeah,
they can say, this is your thing, and we're just going to put it in theaters and see how it does.
100% I would do
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we have a couple like features right now at different stages. Like there's the one we're about to shoot, and then there's a couple other ones that are in different stages. And one of them we've talked about financing ourselves. So it's a conversation. I'm definitely into the idea. Whether or not that happens will be remain to be seen. But I am into the idea.
Do you have a concept of what might help make comedy and film more successful? I talked to your executive Ryan Hall about this recently. Like, Blumhouse for comedy is a common term and a phrase you hear a lot. Like,
Yeah,
the idea of making comedies for less and trying to make it something that can be a bigger success financially, not starting out with a massive star with a massively inflated budget and just great script, great cast, low budget. Is that something you've thought about?
oh, I mean, so much, and I feel like the answer to that it sounds so obvious and boring, but I don't think it makes it any less true. Which is like you have to have a great script. Like the reason that horror has had this huge explosion over the last decade plus, it's not just that they're making inexpensive horror films that people go, well, I guess I'll watch this. They're making good ones. There's really good ones coming out. And one of my buddy's a great comedy writer. He's like, yeah, the problem with a lot of these comedy features is they're not funny. Like they're
Mhm.
bad. They're
Yeah.
not good. And so it's like it sounds like, okay, so what's the solution? Well, the solution is making a good one. Like make good movies, make movies that are genuinely funny. I mean, sometimes you watch the trailers for like coming out and they'll say, it'll be like a comedy coming out and you'll see it's coming down the pipeline, and you watch the trailer and like you watch the trailer like this is dog shit. Like this is so bad. One of the things I think is happening in those is that there is you still need in comedy, you need a central figure who is like in a project, who is the deciding voice of, I like you want help and you want support and you want collaboration, but it's got to be through somebody's lens. Like you have
Not
to
not
have,
comedy by committee.
yes, it's like, I mean, Todd Phillips has nailed some huge comedies, right? But like, you know that even with like the great support he had great producers, he had great talent. Like it has Todd's stamp on it. Like he was the final say. And a lot of these comedies that you see, you're like, oh yeah, there's 15 people making this, like having a vote, and it's like it doesn't work. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Let's talk about El Tigre. We just announced this recently. It's your first feature starring vehicle, an R-rated comedy. You're going to shoot this summer in New Mexico. It's an interesting project. It's had a long path to the screen. I was told it's like a 15-year-old script that was set up at Sony at one point. Now it's being produced independently. How did the material come to you? What about it did you respond to? And was it it seemed like a quick process to get a finance or for you or not so much?
No, dude. So this was when I started working with Mosaic for TV film stuff, which is like I feel like it's been, I don't know now. I think a couple years. Um, one of the things we were like meeting with writers for other projects, and sometimes when you have those other projects, they go, "Hey, here's these writers. Here's something they wrote, and you're going to meet with them about this other thing." You know, that's just to like to get a sense of their writing. Dude, sometimes you open those scripts and like you read 7 pages and you're like, I don't want to read this.
Commonly.
They sent me El Tigre for Aaron Boschbaum and Teddy Riley, and like I'm reading it and I'm laughing so hard, and I read it in one sitting. Like I just read the whole script, and I was like, yo, this is fucking hilarious. Like, what is up with this? Like one of my like first agendas was like, what? How do we do this? And then it was like that whole process. Like I would be working on other things, like the other projects and things that are developing, and like getting Bad Thoughts up and going. And then I would check in, like, what's up with El Tigre? And there was a couple, it's such a peculiar business, but there would be like some exciting news about it, and then it would be like, oh yeah, that didn't happen. And then one one of the meetings I had, they said, hey, these financiers, a couple of them had read it and were into it, and one of them seemed like they were really into it. And so we met with them, talked about how I saw the script. We knew, like you said, it's a 15-year-old script, so we're like, we're gonna have to like update some things, make some, like, do a general pass, but like the bones of the story are there. And then it was like, well, you had to get the Sony kind of attachment was its own thing, having to
Mm-hmm.
get them to release the script, So that was a whole thing. No, it was quite a process. And then they seemed like they were really on board. Then I saw Tyler Cornack's movie Mermaid at South by, which I loved. And I met with him like the next day in Austin. Not even about El Tigre. I was just like, I thought what he did was great, and I just wanted to, meet with him and tell him that I would love to do something with him.
What did you respond to? Because I saw you talking to Johnny Pemberton, a friend and fellow comic, recently. He's the star of that movie, and you were just raving about it. So I'm curious, like, what you saw in that you really thought was great.
Well, multiple things. I mean, it's an original story, and it draws you in on like you kind of are really excited watching this movie for the next, like, to see where it goes. So he really ropes you in on it. The performances are great. The tone of the movie, and that's one of those things that, like, I think when you're talking to directors, especially about comedy, like Mermaid's really funny, but it's not funny in the way that like everybody goes, oh, that's a funny movie. Like there's a tone to it, right? That is, I think when you see it, you immediately go, this guy gets it. Like that's the best way to describe it. You're like, this guy gets it. Like, this is funny because the outrageous and crazy things happening in this film are played in a very grounded way, and he really gets you into this fantastical story. I mean, it's a crazy, you could call it a make believe story, but it feels very real, and the comedy in it just, I laugh so hard in this movie. Have you seen it?
I have a link. I'm going to watch it for sure.
Dude, I just was like so taken by the movie. I thought he just delivered, like I said, a great story that you care a lot for multiple characters in it, and it's funny in a way that, like, the types of comedies that I want to laugh at and want to make. So that was like, for me, like once I saw him do that, I go, well, he clearly gets it. How can we work with him?
They got to put you on the poster with your review of this film.
I'm happy to do it.
Going into these filmmaking endeavors, did you talk to friends who did you seek counsel from anybody like Bert Kreischer who has gone through it themselves?
I mean, you kind of like pick up things through conversations. It was less like what should I do here, as much as much general conversations. It is. I have hit up friends about um, specific people where I'll go like, "Hey, have you worked with this person? What were they like to work with?" And you get people's like genuine feedback. You can always tell you're going to get an honest reply when they go, "Let's not text. I'll call you." And you're like, "Great." So they're like, "I don't want this in writing," but that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I felt like also that making bad thoughts was also kind of like a good training grounds, even though a show is different than a feature. It's oddly a very similar schedule that we're going to be on. Yeah,
Do you have a sense of when you're going to go back for Bad Thought season 2?
dude. Uh, I thought we'd be waiting longer. They want us to get going like
Wow.
pretty quickly. So yeah,
They're loosening up with their data, but still kind of secretive. How much did they tell you, or what did they say about the performance of the show?
you know, it, um, they give you like some numbers, like this is how many accounts clicked on it. Netflix has always been big about your completion rate, right? So they'll say like this many people pressed play, this many people watched at least 90% of it. They're always just like, essentially, how can we get more people to finish it? Like, people start it, some people watch half of the series, which I'm completely guilty of as well, right? Like, I start and don't complete so many of them, but yeah, they tell you stuff. They told me one thing that I think I can share that was fascinating to me. So they said this the show did really well in, and much better than my stand up in non-English speaking countries, and which I thought actually was quite logical, because I was like, if you're to watch stand up, you have to, first of all, it's a really deliberate choice, right? Like it's more niche than you realize, and sometimes, and then you really have to have a command of that language to fully like embrace it and get it. And so I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because the show is like, it's a scripted show, so they don't feel like, oh, it's a guy standing there who's making references I don't get, and like, the tone of it is something so I thought that was really interesting. They're like, yeah, it's doing really well in those places too.
It's still interesting because comedy, even in film, is thought of as something that doesn't travel. It's like it's very
Yes.
cultural and specific, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and we see it in. I mean, if you go back to the box office, one of the things about comedies and the lack of investments from studios is that they pretty much just adhere to. Well, they follow their own data that a lot of comedies are just going to be a U.S. market thing. If it's drama, if it's action or something, they're like, yeah, it's global, and if this is a comedy, it's going to be just here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that's wrong?
I think it's, well, I'm sure that's supported, by a lot of data. Um, but then you go, well, for sure, there's huge global comedy hits, right? And it's like, what made those work? Um, Usually it's, yeah, sometimes, yeah, there's a huge known star attached, but I think there's also like a great story. And if you go great story, it's going to be different.
So where do you go from here? How do you balance stand up and filmmaking? Because the thing about stand up is it's so all in encompassing, and you always have to make a choice. How am I going to be using my time? That's why it seems like a lot of comics are kind of opposed to filmmaking and that kind of thing, because it's like you're sitting on set, people want to go go go. There, it's like a completely different discipline.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, how do you do it? I mean, I don't know. I don't think you do. You kind of got to do one or the other. Like I took the summer off knowing that I wanted to shoot something. So I just put touring aside. It's like kind of impossible to do. Like the only person who like does both actively at the same time is Kevin Hart.
You know
And
what? Nate Bargatze was doing it while shooting his movie.
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I actually feel like, I mean, I did it a little bit, like the smallest degree during the show when I was filming it, where I tried to like clear the schedule and I couldn't clear it completely. It's not ideal, man. It really isn't. It's not how you want. I think when you're shooting, you want to be fully invested in it. Um, I was referencing Kevin just because I think he's an anomaly. Like yeah, his energy and everything. You're like, I don't know how the hell you're doing this.
He's an entrepreneur, and he's
Yeah,
used to like working in all these different lanes at once. He can kind of compartmentalize.
it's
In
insane. I think. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, Nate also, he works very hard. No, I try to clear the schedule. At the end of this El Tigre shoot, I do have to do a couple of gigs and then come back to set, but it's only thankfully a few days. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm going to wrap up this tour in December, and I have a completely open 2026.
are you weighing what you're going to do then, depending on
Yeah,
scheduling stuff? Yeah,
I'm trying to set up a few projects at different times of the year, and hopefully we can get them all going. And it would be great. It would be a great use of time, to be like, hey, I'm open. Let's go.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask you about Austin. You're one of these artists that's picked up and moved there, and there's like a thriving stand up community there. On the At the same time, like there are comics who have moved there and left. So I'm kind of curious. Are you still in love with it? Like, how do you feel about having roots there?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there a little over 4 years. I think like you have to be honest about these things about like where you live. I mean, there's upsides and downsides. It's not like I don't think there's any like perfect you know living situation. Like there's things I miss about LA, of course. Like I lived there 19 years. I'm incredibly comfortable in LA. It's just it feels very like home, but there's also incredible downsides to it. And I feel the same way. Like Austin to me is like family's very happy. My boys love it there. It's a very, very kid friendly place to be. Like it feels like a very distinct departure culturally for me from LA. Completely different. Um, Everything is like easier to do, and you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
going to get coffee is easier in Austin than it is in LA. And there is value in that. Those are things that like you go like I'm back in LA right now, and I was just like telling my wife yesterday. It's like I was trying to go stop to get her a coffee, and I drove around this area for like 25 minutes just
yeah,
looking for somewhere to park. It was making me insane, like I was like I'm going
yeah.
crazy here. But that is like, it's also familiar. It's like a feeling that I was used to. That was just that's what it's like to live in LA. Like that's just what it is. Um, I don't know. People are generally very kind in Austin. I have a lot of good friends there now that I really enjoy spending time with. look, it's too hot. Of course, it's too hot. It's freaking Central Texas. It's like an oven. So yeah, like that sucks. But then, like like I said, there's upsides and downsides to all of it. But it's definitely home, and I'm definitely not leaving. Um, yeah, I'm going to be living there for the foreseeable future.
Another thing with upsides and downsides is this bill with this Texas tax incentive. It was pointed out to me that it's very exciting because they're pushing to bring more production, I guess, to the state. But at the same time, there are like clauses about inappropriate content. And so I'm kind of curious what that would mean for comedy and like what it means for you as a filmmaker, because you shot a bunch of Bad Thoughts in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And you would hope to have access to that kind of fund and not be kind of shut out from access.
It was a huge bummer, man. It's a huge bummer. I mean, I'm still an advocate of productions coming to Texas. Like, I live there. I'd love to see that community grow and thrive. I love that when we shot the show there, we were able to employ so many local people, and they were super stoked. I mean, they would express it every day on set, and that was great, you know. And I loved sleeping at home and making the show. I thought it was really great for me and like my own life. Yeah, that part of it sucked because I was like pushing it so hard and how great it was, and then we got turned down for the incentive, you know. Yeah, so like we submitted everything and they were like, no. And we're like, great. So I mean, what can you do? I think this new criteria for it is more friendly, and I think it's it's more encouraging. I hope that if we do more stuff that we're doing in the state, that we're able to benefit from this incentive. It remains to be seen, but I'm still encouraging people to do things there.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, it's hilarious work on Bad Thoughts. I can't wait to see what you're cooking up with El Tigre. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.